Now there's some attributes I like to apply to my page, and I have to consider where I'm going to put them to try to add the least amount of CSS code as possible to my page to get the same effect, right? What I'd like to do, for one, is define a width for my page as a whole, because I think right now it's flexible, but the wider you stretch it out, the harder it is for the user to read it. It's a readability thing. So um, I like to apply just a general width to all the content on my page. And what I do that through is in the body tag, I could do that. Now, this kind of brings up a concept of CSS inheritance. If we look at any web page, basically the basic structure is that it's going to have a head and a body. The head has the metadata, and the body has all the viewable content that's rendered by the browser. So because CSS inheritance actually passes down CSS attributes from a parent attribute to a child, for example, anything inside of the body would be considered a child of the body, right? So this H1, whoops, this H1 over here, because it's nested inside of the body, its parent is the body. So if I define a width for the body, H1 is going to inherit that, and so is paragraph, and so are all these other elements inside of there. Well, let me do just that. I'm going to go to my page, and I'm going to start a new CSS attribute. And because I'm targeting the body tag specifically, all I need to write is body, and then I put my brackets up. And the first thing I'm going to add is the width attribute. And width, I think, readability wise, I think the best way from what I've read is, I think, anywhere between 40 to 50 characters wide. So with that, I could do something like 39 EM. And EM is a width, as we mentioned before. It's 39 ems long, so it's kind of a relative measurement to how big my font is, which works for me because that's going to be about 39 to 40 characters wide. So I just saved that. Let me give a refresh, and aha, you see it. Now everything's constrained to a certain width, and that is cool. I definitely like that. And that was just by adding a certain width to the body. So I'm going to do one more thing. I don't like how this is so close to the left over here. It's not right up against it, as you could see, but there are some actually default browser values going on here, but I kind of want to push them a little bit further away from there. So again, I want to push everything away from the left, so I would just add some CSS to my body. And I do that with margin. So since that was on the left, I'm going to do margin dash left. And why don't I put 3 M's and see what that looks like. Okay, you see how it brought the width a bit more. Actually, it's important to note that there are some browser defaults, because if I put 0 and save it, see, it wasn't that close before. Check that out. Here's a browser default value in action. I'm just going to cut this out, and I haven't defined any margin left or margins for that matter altogether, and I refresh it. You see how the browser has its own built-in CSS that it just sort of assumes certain things, and one thing it assumes, right, it makes the font, if you're defining something as a paragraph versus an H1, you see that by default the H1 is going to be bigger. Well, that doesn't happen by accident. Those are browser default styles that it has in there. Same thing, here are some margins at the top and on the left of this document that I haven't defined anything. So it's just adding those in there. You know, when I added the 0, then it actually brought it back. Let me refresh it. Keep your eye over here. See, it brings it back over there. Now, if I just do margin 0 altogether, it's going to bring it up top over here too. Anyway, but I want browse margin left, and I'll leave it 3ems. Okay, that works for me. I like that. And we have the width. And now there's one more thing I'd like to do in that you commonly would like a CSS attribute that you would commonly apply to your body is a background color. And right now I have it set as white. So background color is the attribute. It's pretty simple. It's just background and then color. And we could do black, but I'll tell you, see, and there we go. But I'll tell you what, when you're making pages that are meant to have a lot of content to be read, obviously this is for reading this page, you never want to have a dark background. Well, you never want to have light text on a dark background, because if you actually end up reading this stuff for a while, just to, even if you keep your eyes on this for a little bit and concentrate, it ends up being really tiring on the eyes. You know, it's like you look at this for a while, then you kind of look away at like a light colored wall, and you kind of see things a little funny. From a readability standpoint, you always like to do light background on darker text. Just easier for the eyes. Obviously, if this was like, well, black, like a black background on light text, I know it looks good. And I'm not saying to you could never do it. It's just that if you are presenting a lot of content that's going to be read like this, it's better to make it more readable for your user, because that's really what you're going for no matter what, right? The user's in charge, not you. So I kind of want a really or an off-white colored background, so I need to find the hex decimal for that. Off-white and then hex. Let's see. And this should off-white. Here we go. First hit. I'm just gonna find it. Here's the hex decimal for it. Now this way, I could just start the tag like so. And let me see if that works out for me. Okay, subtle, but now it's blue. Let me just see the difference. It's almost hard to see the difference once I... Okay, well, it definitely had effect. There we go. Okay, so just in summary, 3 things that we did to the body over here. We applied to the body being the visible portion of the web page. We applied width of 39 ems, which is about 39 characters wide. We gave it a left margin of 3 ems to kind of push it away from the browser Chrome on the left over there. And we defined a background color for it. We did it with hexadecimal, and keeping readability in mind was one thing that we have 2 attributes here doing for us. It's given our width a maximum, and given our background color something a little off-white, not really dark, to make that that dark background light text thing happen, which we kind of want to stay away from. And all this happens because of CSS Inheritance. It basically, all these other attributes down there inherit these values unless we redefine them later.